Hi, it's Joe Morgan with the Tech Leader Spotlight podcast, where we interview tech leaders to learn about their journey and leadership lessons learned along the way. This show is brought to you by the Tech Professional Money Operating System, where we help tech professionals who know they're doing well financially, but aren't sure if it's enough and want to make sure that their money is being taken care of the right way. So we help people do things like invest cash wisely and make the most of stock awards, minimize their tax bills, overall creating clarity and confidence so you can spend less time worrying about your money and more time living the life you want. If you want more information on us, look me up on LinkedIn, Joe Morgan at Best Financial Life. Today on the podcast, I'm very excited to have Roger Saunders, who's a connectivity engineer at Meta, who is also an experienced leader specializing in hyperscale data center connectivity. Welcome to the podcast, Roger.
Hi, good morning, Joe. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So hyperscale data center connectivity. Tell me what that phrase means.
Uh, so for the connectivity engineer role is we oversee the installation of all of the pathways and everything from breakground, underground, OSP, which is outside plant fiber, and ISP, inside plant fiber. And we receive those from the general contractor and then the teams, the telecom teams. We also oversee all the installation of the infrastructure at that point, and then we see it clear to the end where we turn it over to the Edge Network Services team, where that's where the money's made.
So you're focused on new build, or do you work on existing structures, or how does that
It's all new build.
all new build?
Everything that we do is new build. We do also have oversee what we call some tech mods. So when it's a larger tech mod over a certain monetary amount, we will handle that as well.
Interesting. Great. Well, we haven't had anybody on the podcast with your experience in working in your area, so I'm interested in how you how you view the questions we normally ask. So let's get to the first one. So what does leadership in the tech space mean to you?
So leadership in the tech space, what it means to me is I have a phrase. It's a thing that I live by, and it's you can either I'm going to choose a better word. You can either have somebody work for you or have somebody want to work for you. Those are two completely different phrases. And how I do that is I typically, when I'm out there, I'm always talking to the teams. I'm out walking. I'm visible all the time. And it's kind of crazy how when you're out there, how many people actually know who you are. And you're like, wow, like I had no idea. Yeah. So, but that's where I always have this, whenever I ask for deadlines to be met and completions of tasks, I always try to ask with empathy, um, because I've been there, and I let them know that because it's not just trying to make a connection, but it's letting them know, hey, I was where you were at, 10 years ago, and it's not impossible. You don't have to have this degree and this college, this all of this college knowledge to be able to work for a hyperscale data center and do what I do. And that seems to carry a lot of weight, even in the trades. I spent over 34 years in the construction industry, and I came up from high school framing houses to becoming a union sheet metal worker, working with plumbers and pipe fitters on large scale high rise buildings, all the way to cabling. Got into cabling, so yeah, it's been great. But that's what it means to me: is you make that connection, ask with empathy and respect. You're not anywhere, shape, or form are you above them in any way, shape, or form. Without them,
Yeah.
yeah, without them, you're not successful, and you win as a team and you lose as a team.
Yeah. I think it's so great that when people bring their past experience to what they're doing today, when you try to reinvent yourself, like you get promotion or whatever, and you try to reinvent yourself, it doesn't seem to work too well. That's a really hard thing to do. But if you can bring your own personal experience, be a human being, and be in front of people, that's great. So the two main things I heard you say, and maybe there was a third, but the two things I heard you say was stay visible, and then when you're asking people to do things, ask it with empathy.
Yeah, those are the two key primary things. Those carry a long way. Um, and then
Right.
the other third thing that I mentioned was right there at the end is I always have the, hey, if you lose, I lose. If you don't meet a deadline, I don't meet a deadline. This isn't, hey, you didn't make it. It's we didn't make it. And it's always we.
And that's more of your personal attitude, correct?
Yeah. We really went into that heavy as a team when Meta started, when I was started with Meta, formerly Facebook. And we had an organization which was Global Data Center uh, Connectivity, GDCC. Sorry, it's been years since we merged.
That's all right.
But uh, basically, what that was we always said that it's like, and it's true, right? If you're a manager and if
Yeah,
you're managing that team, if they fail, what does that say about you as a manager, right?
yeah.
Like, and that seems to really carry a lot of weight with the guys because they know that, with the team, because they know that you're in this with them.
Now, I'd like to just dig into that a little bit. So, like, let's say you're a manager and you have that attitude. How important is it that your manager has that attitude?
Extremely important, extremely important because uh, a manager, I'm not a good person when I'm being micromanaged. I should say
Right.
I am not good with being micromanaged.
Yeah.
I am more of a manager who will back you, even if you're not 100% right, he'll still back you. But then they'll have a private conversation with you and say, hey, next time, next time, maybe, this is what we do. So it is very important to have that manager that has that same mindset because you want to be collectively one team, right? You want to have the same mindset, drive to the same goals, and you're going to drive to the same outcomes.
Yeah. So it's got to be throughout the organization really for that to work, right? Because if you're managing that way as a manager, and it's if it's us that it's both of us that lose, it's not just you, and then your manager doesn't feel that way, your manager is going to crush you, right?
He could, if we lose, yes, he could very
Yeah.
much so. But I really the weight that carries out there when you're a connectivity engineer, our field, which is really weird for construction because in construction there's a hierarchy, right? It's a pyramid, right? You've got construction manager, project manager, and then you've got foremen's leads, things like that. At Meta, everything was linear.
Mm,
So the construction managers and project managers, the connectivity engineers necessarily didn't report to them. We had
mm.
full autonomy. We had full say so. We worked closely with design engineers, everything making changes, validating changes, authorizing changes, and change orders. So it is important to have that manager to back you, yes. But is it critical to the team's success? No, because they're pretty much removed. They're pretty much dealing with the back office of the team that we're managing, and
Yeah. So
you're
there's
managing that team directly.
so the structure really helps all of that be
It does.
successful as well. Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
sir.
Let's turn to some of the challenges that are going on in the tech market today. Layoffs seem to be happening all the time. What piece of advice would you recommend for folks to create resiliency in the sense that we have these layoffs going on? They could basically hit anybody anytime, it feels like. So what should people be doing?
Um, the biggest thing is execute when you're there, right? Because there's one thing that I learned from my old manager, and I never thought about it like this, but he told me one time, he goes, Raj, he says, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And I said, okay, let's talk about that. So this guy actually, ironically, gave me my first break in telecom. And when he was hiring me, this is what he was speaking about. He went to the owner of the company and when he wanted to hire me, he knew this much about telecom,
Yeah.
right? Uh, but he wanted me to be the small projects manager. He wanted me to handle national MACDs, that's move, add, change, deletes, change orders, small projects, things like that. So they were talking, and the owner was fighting him on it. He goes, "This guy doesn't know anything. This guy doesn't know anything." And Rich told him, he said, that was my manager, ended up being my manager was Rich Dimmel. He says, he may not know telecom, but I can teach him that. He says, but I guarantee you, Roger can build the building around that idea.
Mm, Mm,
He says he knows everything about that building. And the other thing that he told me was, he says, your attention to detail, how you work, he says your work ethic, your people skills, he says, I can't teach that. He says, but I can teach you the industry. So
mm,
because he knew all of that I met him through his brother, and I had done his brother's basement for him, start to finish. Like I used to do that on the side, frame the basements, wire it, drywall it, trim it out, the whole 9 yards, right? And
hmm.
through just him seeing my work and my work ethic over there, that's what sparked him to call me and start a relationship like that, a professional one.
That's a great tip. There are people out there who are afraid of layoffs, and when you get afraid, you can freeze up, and frankly, you can stop executing, operating the way that you should that you should be doing in order to get your job. And so then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. If we're going to have layoffs, who are we going to lay off? We're going to lay off the guy who's not working. So execute when you're there. I love that tip. And then a little bit deeper into that, attention to detail, work ethic, people skills, those things that you can't teach that are more endemic to you as a person, as a human being, that make you employable in the next gig, because who knows what the next gig may be, given certainly today with all the AI stuff evolving. Um, yeah, but if you bring the human skills, AI is not going to bring that.
It's not. And the thing is I've been very humbled that, you know, I'll randomly get friend requests on Facebook, and when I accept them from text, because I'm leery, you have to be careful, right?
Yeah.
And I'll accept it from people that I've spoken to, had conversations with, but they're messaging me and just telling me like, man, I really appreciate you. Like it's so humbling to get messages from guys and say, man, I really respect you. Thank you so much for all you're doing. And it's been a wonderful experience and humbling to know that people see me, see my efforts, and they see me that way.
Yeah, it's that's great. And as we get older, that happens more and more for doing things right. Um, Tell me, what's the most important financial decision you've made in your tech career? Whether it's about compensation, equity, job choice, whatever it is.
Well, when I got with Facebook Meta, that was my first Fortune, whatever, Fortune 100, 200, 500, whatever you want to call them at the time.
Right.
Meta at the time only had roughly about 25,000 employees.
Hmm.
Um, so for me, it was full transparency. Like I accepted that job, and my income was significantly different.
Yeah, right.
So, but I will tell you one of the biggest things that I did getting into it financially for me was I invested in my 401. And if there's
Mm,
anything that I can tell anybody, these
yeah.
are the old guys talking. Yes, you young people out there listening, yes, this is an old guy talking. Invest. Invest in
Yeah.
your 401s and dump it in there. At one point, I was dumping 26%, 27%, maxing out
Wow. Yeah.
because it's not going to be there forever. To your point, you don't know what AI's going to do. You don't know what this is going to happen. You want something there for your future.
Yeah.
That would be my suggestion for financial, because stocks come and go. If the AI doesn't pop off your stock, those RSUs you're getting, they could tank. They could be worth nothing. You don't know. The only thing you do know is what you have in your hand. And that's one thing that my wife, we would sell a little stock here and there, to have some fun or to buy something we wanted. And she was like, well, you shouldn't be selling that. That's a retirement. I was like, hang on, no, 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 no. That's not our retirement. Yes, it can help us during retirement, but that is not what we're basing our retirement on. And
Yeah.
she got it after a while. So yeah, I think that's probably the best advice I could give them.
That
This,
that's great.
go
I,
ahead.
I was just gonna, drive that home. So, as a financial planner, of course, save over spending. That's the easiest way to make a really good financial plan. But investing in your 401k, you get the tax deduction currently. It's money you never notice, you never see, and it grows over time. And you will be so grateful later in life that you did that. Absolutely. Especially when you get a rise in income, don't just raise your living standard, right? You were fine living the way you were. Maybe you can increase it a little bit, but think about those years, all those years you want to not work at some point in the future. You got to pay for things during that time. So now's the time to pay for them by saving and investing.
Yeah, that's very good. And the other thing I would suggest too is the other thing, well, let me touch on that real quick because you're 100% correct. Because if you're in a 401k, you have your Roth and then you have your other one, right? Lots of times if you raise it 3 to 5%, you're not even gonna, it might make a difference of $100 on your check.
Yeah,
And you're not even gonna see. And all of
yeah.
that money is dumping in. And the other thing is if you're doing it early on, like the company's matching 100% of that up to whatever percentage they match to,
Hmm.
and you're getting free money.
Free money.
It's
Yeah.
crazy not to do it. So the other thing I would say is if somebody gets RSUs and they are or have someone that works for them that can invest, that would be my other suggestion is diversify. Like
Mm.
don't hold on to all of them in one thing. For example, if you get Meta RSUs and you got 140 RSUs or whatever, and they're all vested and they're all good to go, pay somebody to get those and sell some of them and reinvest into
Yeah.
something else. That would be my other suggestion.
Yeah, that's actually becoming a little bit more common than it has in the past. Before all these layoffs, it was common for me to talk to people like, "Yeah, but I love my company. My company's doing great, and want to hold on to the stock." And it's like, man, that's when your RSUs vest, it's a paycheck. It's a paycheck just like your regular paycheck, and I could prove that to you in the sense that if you're out there and you're getting RSUs, and let's say your company comes to you and says, you know what, we're not going to give you any more RSUs. And what's more, anything that's not vested, we're going to take away. So you're never going to get any more vesting RSUs. What are you going to do? You're going to go look for another job, right? Because that's a huge pay cut. So
Mhm.
if the RSUs are a paycheck and they vest and you don't sell them, then what you're doing is you're taking an entire paycheck and you're buying company stock with that paycheck just by simply holding on. And now, would you ever do that? No. But that's what you're doing. So somehow we've tricked ourselves into thinking, oh, this is some bonus, some excess, and it's a lottery ticket. True, but it's also your paycheck. It's why you work.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's very, very valid and good point. Um, but yeah, it's been a great time, doing what I do. Um, but yeah, anyways,
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. You shared some interesting things that we hadn't heard before, so really appreciate your time.
yeah, there's just one thing that I would like to cover,
Sure.
and this is one thing I had happen to me when I first got my offer with Meta, and I was working for a company. I was working for a young project manager, and I called him and told him, hey, turning in my 2 weeks. And he was like, well, who you working for? Who you leaving me for? Who you doing this? So then I tell him it's Meta, it's Facebook. He goes, well, what contract you work for? I was like, no, I'm working for Facebook, not a contractor. He goes, oh, okay, well, tell me, what are they doing? What are they offering you? And he kept going, and he got up to a number, and I said, I'm north of that. He goes, well, I don't see where your resume warrants that kind of work, that kind of pay. So never let somebody tell you your worth.
Yeah,
Never let somebody tell you your worth because that guy right there, my simple response to him was this: that's great and that's your opinion, but I went through 10 interviews at Meta and every single one of those people disagree with you.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's very interesting. And that's what I think I would want to leave people with that today is never let somebody tell you your worth.
yeah. That's great. Don't do that because you know I went through something similar. And I think if you talk to anybody who's had a career, over time and done some career changes, they probably had similar conversations. And so you've got to really, believe in yourself, put yourself forward, and try things. And that's great. Great tip.
Yeah, and
All right.
I kind of see the industry moving, if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah.
I thought this was kind of tied to one of your questions. I kind of see the industry shifting to where I think you're going to run across people. Our jobs are going to be more of a hybrid position, I feel, and I think the general contractors are
Hybrid
going to
in
be
what sense? Hybrid between what and what?
between, say, like a construction manager and a subject matter expert, a SME. So that would be like a
Yeah.
connectivity engineer. And
Yeah.
that's where I see, again, I'm just reading the tea leaves in the bottom of the cup here. I, I think that's where I see this, and they're going to be managing multiple projects, not just one. And I see the GCs, the general contractors, receiving more responsibility. And
Mm,
I could see the thing is, though, people like myself and others who may get laid off, that's where you need to be looking at is start talking to the general contractors because they are looking for expertise of our nature.
mm.
And that's what I would suggest people, if you get impacted, start looking.
Yeah. Great. Good. Anything else to add?
No, sir.
All right. Thanks so much for being on the podcast, Roger. Very, very helpful.
Thank you for having me, Joe. It was a great time.
All right. Just as a reminder, this is sponsored by the Money Operating System, where tech leaders gain clarity and control of their finances so they can live out the rest of their life with intention. If you want to know more about us, look me up on LinkedIn, Joe Morgan at Best Financial Life.